find this. It's like, we want a mandolin player. It's like, well, does anybody know a mandolin player? It's not like we can just, hit somebody up and say, give me a mandolin player.
And I remember Janelle Monáe's album. We had a homie who was an intern while they were making that album.
Yeah.
And I remember he told us, Ray Harrison, he was like, Janelle Monáe got Emery's orchestra to do the strings on that. And I remember just hearing about how Kanye had got like the LA orchestra or whatever to do his strings. And I just remember us thinking like, well, if he can do it on Kanye's level and Janelle can do it on her level, she goes and gets, a really prestigious college in the city she's from and get their orchestra. Why can't we just find a violin player? You know what I'm saying? Like, we all have our own, we're not foolish. We're not on Kanye's level. We don't deserve to be. Yeah. But we are on our level and we can maximize this. We are an artist. We are from a community of artists in a huge city. There's a violin player somewhere. Yeah. And I think that was a huge thing. Yeah, I think that was a huge, like, Janelle Monáe. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And not only, and looking at that, and another thing about Janelle Monáe was that it was just I remember going to her show, and, it was like just this huge production. And Ray was just kind of explaining to us how the show was put together. And it was like, oh, yeah, they, those dancers on stage with her, those are just her roommates. Oh, those dudes who are over there, those are just part of they just part of the family, that Wonderland Art Society. They're all just friends. They, like, what I'm saying, when I say, like, the Far Out family, I mean, the guy behind the camera is part of the Far Out family,
Yeah,
like, it's just very, these are our people, you know what I'm saying? Like,
I talk to Terrence every day.
Yeah, he comes through, and if Terrence needs us to hold a boomstick, as I would say, you know what I'm saying? We're there to hold, like, what you need extras, what you want me to do? You want me to hold it? It's very, we have, Stevie, who helps us with, just style. And if Stevie needs something, she knows that we're there. It's a very big collective, because we just, realized that everybody was just trying to make it. Everybody just needed some help, The fact that, these people had, it was like, my mom always said, she was like, the more money you get, the less stuff you have to pay for, because you just know people. And it was like, well, we could know people, and people could, there could be some kind of there could be some kind of,
for real.
Just a networking thing, where it was just like, he knows he has whatever graphic design capabilities I can do, they know that they have that for me.
Yeah.
Just the same as, it's a give and take. So
I think it was really about the art, man. Like, trying to compete with the greats,
No man's an island.
Exactly. I mean, I think that's what I mean. 6 tracks on the EP, and we have 4 videos shot for it, and with no budgets. You know what I'm saying? Like,
absolutely.
I think that was the biggest thing. Like, we never want for art. We never want for beats or live instrumentation or videographers or, what we can think up in our minds. Far Out can make that dream come true. Is what we want it to be. You know what I'm saying?
Man. I guess what am I not into? I've listened to a whole lot of stuff, and I don't think anymore. I mean, growing up, it was a lot of punk. It was a lot of hardcore. That was like my early high school kind of orientation, and then I grew out of that into more like alternative music and hip hop, and I guess in the last, as I got a little bit older, started even to get into like stuff I would never have listened to when I was a kid, like folk music and things like that. Like, that was just way too calm for me growing up. Like, I needed that kind of really abrasive guitars, abrasive music, stuff that kind of just hit you in the gut and came at you.
I feel that.
And it was very rare. So I mean, there was some stuff that I could listen to, but it was very rare a song that was like really slow, that just like really melodic and just either worked off a vocal or a simple guitar line. I could put myself in a place where I could just sit down and calmly listen to that and appreciate that.
Right.
But now that I'm older, a little bit more calm, I can appreciate those kind of things. So there's really not a whole lot that I won't give an opportunity to. It comes and goes, man. I listen to a whole lot of stuff. I think my daughter was about maybe like a year and a half, and it was that rough first year where you kind of, every waking moment you're kind of living for your daughter, and you're doing everything for them, and you really don't have that much of a life of your own. And when we got out of that period and she was starting to get older and like walk and talk and kind of like have her own individuality, And it was a point where you could exhale. And I said, all right, I really need to get back to music because it was such a big part. And for that year and a half, I really just kind of was skimming peripherally. Like big things that would come out. Like it would take a big album. Okay, Arcade Fire just dropped that. Okay, let me go check that out. It wasn't like I wasn't digging anymore. And I got to that point where like, okay, let me force myself to start digging and listening to music. And I've always been a writer. I did an intern at Paste. And for a time thought that's what I was going to do, write kind of, and then got a family and started and then kind of make a living, and that just wasn't in the books for me. I went through, it was probably option 3 or 4, probably 4. There were other things that I wanted and they were taken, and I did kind of the cheesy kind of thing where I said, looked at some of my favorite bands and like, okay, what are some song titles? So the latest Disgrace is a Fugazi song. It's off Red Medicine. I believe it's Red Medicine. And I always really liked that song and thought that was pretty funny.
Shit, yeah.
That's cool, actually.
Yeah,
I looked at him like Mo Castro. That's definitely an alias. Like, I was like, I'm assuming he's a rapper. Mo Castro.
Okay.
Now the Castro is real. The Mo is short and it's Guillermo.
Okay.
It's short.
Oh, okay.
My brother did that.
Okay.
Could never say my name, so my mom started calling me, and then all my friends.
Okay.
2003.
Word, same year I was in.
2003.
Yeah,
grew up in Miami. Went to school in Boston. Did that. Played in a couple bands, or in a band in Boston. And,
what'd you play?
Bass.
Oh, word.
And did that for about 8 years, and then that kind of fell apart. The band fell apart. It was kind of one of those things. Okay, what I want to do, and moved back to Florida. I met my wife down there, and we moved in together. And we just didn't really. I'd forgotten why I moved out of Florida. Florida's great, weather's great, but there's not, musically it's very difficult for bands to get all the way to South Florida. You got to go through a whole lot of nothing to get down to South Florida. So you don't see a whole lot of tours. At least not that underground lower level tour, which is really where a lot of stuff that I actually like to listen to. You could always catch big name acts, but so it got to the point where we just kind of were both a little tired of it. I had a lot of my friends growing up had gone to college in Florida State or Florida or whatever, and they had moved to Atlanta after they graduated. So I'd visited Atlanta a few times. I always liked it, and my wife had too. And so we just decided, okay, let's go. It's not that far. Let's move to Atlanta.